All right, everybody, it's November 17th, 2023, and we're going to do our reaction on Neil deGrasse Tyson on, what is this, Pierce Morgan, right? And this is making the rounds now on other podcasts because he's doing the same interview and he's trying to make the same excuses. And you got to remember, this is an extremely intelligent person. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is a scientist that's known world known, right? And he's making every excuse in the book not to take a scientific stand on the difference between men and women in sports. So let's, with that being said, let's roll the tape here.
I guess at the center of it is this core belief, which many put forward, that there is a biological science towards sex, and then there is gender. And that is an identity issue which is separate to sex and biology. What is your view of this, and why has it got so toxic, and what is the way through this debate?
Yeah, so I think I have some insights there brought to you by how we end up classifying things in the universe. In the universe, very few things are discrete in what they are.
Here we go with the BS. In the universe, things are very discrete on what they are. All right, let's go.
There's, in almost all cases, a continuum between one kind of object and another. Now, it's hard to have conversations about continua, so you divide it up into as many categories as is sensible, and then you have a way to discuss what's going on in the universe with others. So here we have human beings, where let's go back to the bio part of this, where you have the chromosomes, XXY. There's intersex, where one of the chromosomes is doubled up. No one is arguing that.
So nobody's arguing the science part of there's a difference between men and women. Okay, well, that's fair, especially from a scientist.
Give that to the biologists.
And that's one thing they always come up with. Give it to the biologists. Like, the biologists are the ones that are going to tell you what's the difference between a man and a woman. I don't need to be a veterinarian to tell you what's a female dog and what's a male dog.
And you can call that what sex? Is it male sex or female sex? I don't have a problem with that.
He doesn't have a problem with you calling a male and a male and a female, which you shouldn't.
What I do know is that in the real world, in a free country where, because I remembered some document that said the pursuit of happiness, it seems to me freedom, which is so heavily championed in the West, is accompanied by a pursuit of happiness. Okay.
What does the Constitution and pursuit of happiness have anything to do with men and women's sports? So if men want to call themselves women, that's their pursuit of happiness. So they should be able to go into sports. Is that what you're saying? I don't know, Neil. It seems like you're just bouncing around right now.
That's foundational to what I'm about to say. So we all know growing up that in the classroom every year, there were girls who were a little more tomboyish. In fact, tomboy, who came up with that word? They're really tom girls, right? A tomcat is a boy cat. A tom girl would be a sort of a boy girl.
Okay, so far, there is no foundation. So far, he's just juggling over here, telling you this, telling you that, and absolutely telling you nothing. Like that rap song that says, talking loud, but ain't saying nothing, homeboy.
Right? I don't know where tomboy came from, but there were tom girls. They didn't wear skirts. They wanted to play in the mud with the boys. We know they existed. There were boys that were slightly effeminate relative to the others. We know they existed. And so, but we had words for them. They were ridiculed, whatever. We live in a time now where people are emboldened to say, you know, today I feel part female and part male. All right? So today, in fact, I will be neutral to you. I will be androgynous. But you know something? If you're trained in this, you got to be A or B, you got to be a boy, you got to be a girl. You know what you're doing? You're taking your inability of your human mind. By the way, this is true for all human minds.
Oh, man, here comes the bull.
Because we got to categorize.
Here comes the bull.
We always have to categorize. All right? It makes it easier to think about it, but in the end, it's just lazy. All right? So you say, boy or girl. Are you a boy or a girl? And then someone is androgynous, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. But just because you feel uncomfortable Does that give you the right to come back to a person who's expressing their freedom of self?
Oh my God. He is so full of it. It's like somebody telling a scientist H2O is not water. I believe it's air. And a scientist just having to agree with it because that's what the person believes. No, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't, but
And
I think
tell
what I
them
would say,
to
what I would say,
change?
right, but what I would say to this, here's where it gets more complicated. Take the issue of transgender athletes in women's sport, for example.
Okay, no. I got two more sentences and I'll jump right into that.
Okay.
I just want to set the table here.
Yeah.
I'm setting the table where, okay, that if we allow gender to appear on a spectrum, gender expression to appear on a spectrum, as is apparently the case in the real world where people have the freedom to do so, then for you to put your limited capacity to think on a spectrum.
So it's not somebody else's issue that they're a man and they believe they're a woman or vice versa. It is our issues not able to get it in our heads that that's what they are. You can call yourself a mushroom every day for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean you're a mushroom player. Come on now.
In a law that inhibits the freedom of others, that's not a free country. Okay, so now take it to the next step. Where do you want to take that?
Well, what I want
Sports,
to take
come
it to is I don't disagree with that. I think in women's sport, it's created a new inequality.
Well, there are certain events that the men, like the uneven bars. You won't find men on the uneven bars. It doesn't work with
All
male
right, they might win a
physiology
few.
on that one. Okay.
But my point being, there are
so I
reasons
think
why we divide the sexes.
Of course
in sport,
there
is my
is.
point. And the moment you start
got you.
allowing gender identity to
Absolutely.
overcome
Absolutely.
biology, I see there's a problem.
Let's
Okay.
hear the
So-
BS.
All that means is we are on a frontier that has not been previously breached, which is what do you do in a sport where now there's an inherent advantage or disadvantage
There's a
based on
hand.
the rules that existed for that sport, whereas previously those advantages or disadvantages didn't exist. So this is not complicated. In high school, in college, and a little bit of graduate school, I wrestled. Okay, I was captain of my high school wrestling team and undefeated. I weighed in high school 190 pounds. Do I wrestle the 125 pounder? No, that would be unfair because I'm 65 pounds heavier, twice as strong, and maybe even faster. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Men compete in different weight classes because that's what makes it fair. A 120-pound man is much stronger than a 120-pound woman. Is there women that may be stronger than 100? Yes, there's always an exception to the rule. But to sit here and just across the board say this is what it is, it's fake. It's false. You're pushing a narrative that just isn't true. And I truly believe that Neil does not believe it either. But Neil is being persuaded by the woke world that if you speak anything that's against it or against transgender being in the same sports, men being in the same sport as women, then you'll get canceled. And that's where we're at in America nowadays.
they set up a rule. I only wrestle people my weight. Wrestling has 10 weight categories to make it an
You're looking fly. You're looking fly right there.
interesting contest. Okay, so let me just make this up now, just as a starter point. The transgenderism usually involves hormone readjustments, okay? Testosterone, estrogen. And so we can imagine a future of sports where you're not contesting men against women, you're contesting people in certain brackets of hormone levels.
Oh man, this guy is falling off the cliff. Now we're gonna compete on certain hormones level. Like I said, this is the nut part of the left. How they are making every excuse in the book. It's very simple. Men are naturally stronger than women. I don't have to go to college for 10 years, get a master's degree, and become this super known scientist to be able to tell you that's common sense, and that's what's missing in America right now, especially in this type of environment where the woke have just completely taken over, and they got a extremely intelligent man like this saying just idiotic stuff like this.
And why not?
Because
is that
it
any
doesn't
different
work.
from
No, but,
separating
hang on.
wrestlers into ten?
I hesitate to lecture you about science.
Thank you.
Professor
Oh, man,
Neil
thank you.
deGrasse Tyson. I really do.
Thank you.
But I'll tell you why not. Because what they've already tried to do this. They've already tried to reduce hormone levels. What it doesn't do, that process, is reduce body mass or strength, which
I'm getting
comes
there.
from
That's
which
the
comes
next
from the
level. He's
male
getting there. He's getting
biology.
Way up to that. So one possibility, like I said, I'm just making this up on the.
Tell you the
fly,
hands.
is
The
you
hands.
have
Look over here.
hormone
Look over
categories.
here, people.
If that does not solve the problem, or to the extent that it doesn't, then you put in other rules that separate who's competing with whom. Like I said, we do this all the time.
Right.
All right? And by the way, are you going to go to Michael Phelps and say, you are genetically taller and we have a floppier, I don't know if all of this is true, but some of it is true. You have floppier ankles and webbed fingers. And so we're not going to compete you in this race because you'll have an advantage that other people don't.
He is making such foolish comparisons. He's talking about Michael Phelps. He is a man competing against other men. And that's it. This is insane.
No, we don't do that, do we? In fact, when you really analyze it, practically every gold medal, record-setting Olympic athlete has some genetic thing going on in them that other people don't have.
Wow, the hands. Look over here, people. Look over here.
But my response,
God.
my response to that would be, I think Serena Williams has been on record as saying that she would lose to the top 1,000
Yes.
male tennis players.
Yeah,
So my
that's
point being,
probably
you
correct.
could be
And-
number 999 best in the world as a male tennis player, and become immediately, if you decided to identify as a woman, the greatest woman tennis player of all time.
Let's say track and field, the 100 meters, men are about 10% faster. 200 meters, 10%. It fluctuates, but on average, it's about 10. The marathon, the men do it about 10% faster, okay? And you look at reflexes, it's about 10% faster. Where you have the biggest differences in weightlifting. But for speed and reflexes, it's about 10% faster. So if you wanted to find out where the top women's athlete would land among men, you look at serving speeds, for example, because that's how fast you can bring the racket to the ball, and find the point where the women's serving speeds match up with the men's serving speeds, okay? And then that's where you would land in the world rankings. What I will tell you is people pay to watch sports not for how good the athlete is. They watch sports for how good the contest is. Let's remind.
No. Men watch sports and they pay big money to watch top tier athletes do what top tier athletes do. The WNBA doesn't get anywhere near the amount of numbers that the NBA does because of the quality of the people playing. The guys jump higher, dunk the ball, shoot. They're more athletic. Come on now, this is just silly.
Remind ourselves of this. If we only watched sports for the greatest of athletes, you would never watch college football. Never.
Those are guys who will some come to the NFL. Just stop, Neil. Stop.
The worst.
This is embarrassing.
NFL, the national, in the London audience here, National Football League, the worst National Football League team there ever was, could wipe their ass with the best college team there ever was.
Right.
Because everyone in the professions, each one of them was the best in their college.
Oh, God.
Okay? So, but we love watching college football.
Let's go
okay?
for it.
Have people compete in reflex categories. I would love that. Okay? Then there are people with pretty slow reflexes. They'll have different strategies and how they would win, and group them together. By the way, in chess tournaments.
I'm out of here. This is one of the main reasons that I look at the left and I look at it disgust because of how far off the cliff the nuts have gone. The right have their nuts, the left have their nuts, but the problem is that the left nuts are winning right now. They're making the media go their way. They're making scientists completely disregard science and try to make every single thing about this, that, here, look over here, look at my hands, but don't look at the reality, what's going on over here. This is a joke. Tyson, come on now, get it together, player. Get it together, because the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna start hearing this guy, saying that the world is flat, and because somebody believes it is, that's the way it should be. It's crazy, man. But either way, whether you guys agree with me or disagree with me, leave a comment below. Let's get the conversation going, and hopefully Tyson gets his head out of his ass, man. With that, man, we're out.